Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we started up the final season simulation, and so far it's been an interesting season. As you can see, we are 19-14-1. However, if we look at our individual stats, you can see basically we aren't doing that good offensively, but from a defensive standpoint, this team has been pretty good. So it's been a little bit of a weird start to this last season. We didn't really expect our team to be obviously really super crazy. And so far it's been, like I said, a bit of a mixed bag. Now, there is some definitely positives, I think, still with our offense, even though our offense hasn't been good. I think our depth scoring has actually been pretty good because we aren't reliant on one guy to basically carry this team. You can see there's a lot of guys on 20 plus points on the forward group. So I would say from an offensive standpoint, despite the lack of offense, it's actually not been that bad. And then from a defensive standpoint, we've been actually a pretty good team in terms of our goaltending with Irwin and Bergenheim. So I'm hoping they continue to play like that. And hopefully this team is good enough, obviously, to make the playoffs in this final season. So we do probably need more goal scoring, of course, but I think from an offensive standpoint, having guys like on your third line that are picking up like 17 points in 34 games isn't really that bad. I would like to see some guys start to step up a bit more. Somebody like I'd say Dempsey score more goals, maybe. 5 goals is not really a lot for somebody like him, but then again, he's not getting as much ice time, I guess. I would like to maybe also see a little bit more offense from our back end, so to speak, because it's been a little bit quiet. Now, Holmstrom has missed a lot of games due to injury. Schaefer also missed a couple, so maybe that's why. But yeah, I'm really hoping that obviously this team can kind of figure its offensive game out a little bit better. But once again, the depth scoring, like I said, has been on point. So there hasn't been a huge issue with that, in my opinion. So anyways, that's that. There was no comments in last episode that I need to really go over because they were just general questions that were brought up and stuff about NHL 26. So also, if you guys have any questions about the new X Factor stuff, let me know in the comments because I could answer those questions now. So this is definitely the last year we're seeing the X Factors like this, at least. So there will be no more players with like this many X Factors in franchise mode or anything like that. That's all I could really say, I guess, on that standpoint. So just a little heads up on that. So it's going to be a little bit weird when I get to roster editing and going through X Factors and stuff like that. Because a lot of the X Factors are not in the game anymore. There's just 28 X Factors all combined total. It's more meant, I guess, in a sense for the online purposes, but offline uses it as well. So anyways, that's that. I think we are ready to continue simulate. I don't think we really need to make any offensive adjustments despite our offense being kind of quiet. Like I said, there's been a lot of lines that have done really well on this team so far, so I think we're going to probably just keep it like this and hope it works. I don't know how much of this season we're going to simulate in this episode, because we could simulate the rest of the season if we really want to, but I might simulate to a day before the deadline. That way we can make some decisions if we need to make trades this season or not. So I think we're ready to continue simulating and see if this team could make sure that they actually do make the playoffs in this final season, because right now we're in a wild card spot, so obviously anything could still happen at this point. So I'm hoping that our team can kind of go on a good little run to start this episode, and that way we aren't kind of teetering with playoffs and non-playoffs. So since we're kind of teetering with the playoff opportunity, let's take it a little bit slow in this episode. The trade deadline isn't all the way until the 6th of March, so we got 2 months of simulation, so we might as well do like 1 week at a time, so to speak. So let's go to, I guess, this game against Calgary, see how we do in these first 3 games. We have Seattle, Vancouver, and Edmonton. It's a little bit of a road trip to start off this episode, so let's see if the team could get some good offensive games and win them as well. Seattle's a 3-2 win. Vancouver's a 6-1 victory. That's a nice offensive game. Edmonton's a 7-2 win, so that's also a great offensive game. And of course, we won't see on Calgary just yet, but that's a really good start to this episode. 4 straight wins now, so we have started to find our offensive game, it looks like, as of late a little bit. The 3-2 win, maybe not as much, but 6-1 win and a 7-2 win. That's really good, especially with the Oilers being as good as they are, because you can see they're 21-12-6, so similar record to us, but we beat them 7-2, so definitely some really good positives there. I wonder if Nicholas was in net for that game or not, because maybe he was a double agent for us and let in a lot of goals or something like that, but solid start to the episode. Hopefully that continues as we go on through the rest of this episode. Alright, so we have another 5 games we're going to go through. Actually, let's go through another 4 games. So we'll go through Calgary, New Jersey, Washington, and Philadelphia. Our road trip ends against Calgary right here, and then we're back on home ice for a nice little 5-game homestand. So let's see what we could do against Calgary to wrap up this road trip. We are going to lose 6-3, so not a great game defensively. And Holmstrom's been injured again. I think he was injured 2 times in last episode already, if I remember right. But he's now out with an upper body injury, which is a longer-term upper body injury. It's out for an entire month. So once again, that means Alcock is going to come into the lineup. And he's already gotten to play a lot so far. So there's 2 more wins, though. And we do lose to the Flyers. So not as good the last 4 games, but a nice 5-2 victory over the Devils is good for the playoffs, of course, because they're in our division. And then also beating the Caps is good 3-1. So currently, if we look at the update on the standings, we are still in the wildcard spot. We're 9 points still up on the Rangers in our own division by 1 game as well in terms of in-handedness, I guess you want to say. And then in terms of like the Atlantic Division, technically, if we were in the Atlantic Division, we'd be tied for first place right now. So our division is definitely really strong, and we're in a pretty damn good spot right now if we continue to win games. So let's not go on a little bit of a slide. I know Holmstrom's out, but let's have a good little week here. We have Columbus, Utah, and Toronto. And then, of course, to start the next week, we will have Philadelphia. So let's see if we can beat the Blue Jackets here, who have been a good team so far. And we beat them 2-1. That's a nice defensive game. And now Svedberg, the young defenseman, who is also in the lineup, has been injured with a sore shoulder. So that's not ideal because that means that a Ford will be playing defense, but it is only for a few days. So I'm just going to keep it like that. It's probably a bad decision to do that, but we'll see how these games go. We do beat Toronto after losing to Utah, and we are 26-17-1. So definitely doing a lot better, I think, so far in this episode. We have moved up to the first wildcard spot, and the Blue Jackets have fallen to the second wildcard spot because we also have games in hand. So it's nice that we have games in hand on teams in our division because that could potentially help us with clinching down a playoff spot. We're only technically 5 points back of the Penguins for second place, so we're definitely looking pretty damn solid for a wildcard team at this point in time. Let's continue to simulate, but we're going to only go through 2 games at a time just because we do have a 4-playing defense. I could call up a defenseman from the AHL, but I don't really want to be sending people down on waivers, so I'd prefer to kind of just keep our lineup the same right now. And obviously, if we have more injuries, we could make some call-ups. But game against Philadelphia is a 5-4 loss, not ideal, but we do beat the Kings 3-1, so nice response after a tough loss, because that game was in regulation. We have moved up into a normal playoff spot now. We are in third, and the Hurricanes have dropped off to wildcard spot. We do have games in hand on both the wildcard teams right now, and right around the same amount of points. So it makes sense that we've been losing to the Flyers because the Flyers are currently leading our division by 12 points on us. So definitely Philadelphia has been a good team, and that's why we lost 5-4 there and 3-2 there. We definitely can't really say that they're outlier games based on how good Philadelphia has been. So next we have a game against Seattle, who's been good this season, and Minnesota, who's also been good this season. So some tough opponents, but let's see if we can beat these 2 teams or at least take one of these 2 games. First game against Seattle is a 4-0 win, and then we beat Minnesota 3-1. So those are very good efforts, especially defensively, against 2 very good teams, as that's definitely going to help us with the standings a little bit. Where are we in terms of the standings now? First, though, there's a trade offer. It's a forward named Kay Grodov, which we saw in last episode, I think, as well as Cardwell, who is a defenseman making $3.3 million for 2 third-round picks and a goalie prospect. So I'm not going to accept this trade just because Kay Grodov's making too much, but I do want to take a look at who this Cardwell dude is, out of curiosity. 80 overall, low elite, top 4 defenseman. He's probably a higher overall, just losing morale, I'm guessing. He was a 7th round pick, so this guy's a pretty remarkable story to say the least. But I don't really need another defenseman right now, and I'm just going to decline that offer. But I appreciate it there in New York. All right, so we're still in that 3rd place in the Metro. We're 3 points up on the Blue Jackets, who are 2 games more played than us. So we're doing some good work here. 9 points up on the Rangers, who are not in the playoff spot right now, but this team is definitely figuring itself out a little bit here as we go on. Let's go through this Ottawa game, and that is going to be a 4-2 victory. This team is starting to figure its game out a lot more. I really like it. 30-18-1, so that month of January is definitely going to help us a lot with potentially making the playoffs this year. because we're totally 9 points up on the Rangers with a game in hand. And if we look at the Atlantic Division, technically if we were in the Atlantic, we would be first place in it. So the only reason we're in third place is because we're in a tough Metropolitan Division at the moment. But we do have a big road trip coming up again to start off this month of February. San Jose, LA, Anaheim, and Colorado. We should be fully healthy by this game, I guess. Yeah, that's my guess, because Fedberg should be back and Holmstrom should be back relatively soon too, which is good because I don't really want to be playing forwards like Howes as a defenseman, to be honest. It just does not make much sense, but obviously I don't really want to be calling up people and have to risk losing people on waivers. So Holmstrom should be back here momentarily, I think. He's not back yet, but I think he's back in the next few days, which is good. So 30-18-1, we have our road trip coming up. We are still third place, and we still have the least amount of games played in our division other than the Hurricanes, but we are 6 points up on them at the moment. So let's go through this 4-game road trip, and then we have a nice homestand, a very nice homestand of 6 games in a row to pretty much wrap up the month before we have a game against Washington. So let's see if we can win some games on the road here. It's a California swing, and then we head all the way to Colorado. So let's see if this team could have a good week here and continue this hot trend. We beat San Jose 2-1, as Holmstrom is already back for the next game, which is good. Hopefully he could stay healthy, because it's been, like I said, a tough time for him to stay healthy all year round, and he's obviously our best defenseman, so I would prefer if he was actually in the lineup most of the time. But he's missed a lot of games this year, and I'm not too sure why. It's not like he's super old either. We beat the Kings. We lose to the Ducks in overtime, but that's still a good effort. And then we lose to Colorado, but we're 32-19-2. And we're only 3 points back of the Penguins now, so there is a chance we might be able to jump into second place soon in our division. I don't think we're going to catch the Flyers because they seem to be still on a very hot trend, but we could obviously still win our division at this point. So very solid week, though. Obviously, allowing a bit too many goals maybe in that game against Anaheim, but I will still take it. We scored a good chunk of goals, so definitely our offense probably has improved in this episode, I would assume. We'll definitely take a look at that at the end of the episode or not, but we have first 3 games of our homestand. We have Vancouver, St. Louis, and Colorado again. Can we find ways to beat them? Vancouver's been atrocious this season, so that should be easy. St. Louis has been decent, but they have a lot of regulation losses, and Colorado's been really good this season. Maybe that's why we lost to them a couple days ago. Let's see how we do in these 3 games. Vancouver, who's been bad, we beat 2-1. St. Louis, we lose in overtime. And Colorado, as LA's fired their head coach, Colorado is a 6-4 victory. So we do beat a very solid team. We lose to kind of a mid-team in overtime, but we also win in regulation against a bad team. So that's a solid week. Only a couple more games left to go in this episode, but this team is definitely climbing up the standings. We are now tied for second place in our division with the exact same record as the Penguins. So this game coming up here could decide who ends up finishing second at the end of the season in our division. But yeah, this and the Penguins have been really good. Both identical records and playing each other on the same day. That makes for an interesting matchup. Now, we have played them a lot in the playoffs, and they have a good team. So I feel like it's probably going to be a game that we end up losing, but it could end up being better than that. We also do have a game against the Jets, who are below 500 right now, and Anaheim, who's just above 500. So those 2 games are big, I guess, for the Western Conference standings. And then Washington's 500 as well. So we should be able to hypothetically win a good chunk of these games this week. Let's see how we do in the first 2. We have Pittsburgh and Winnipeg. Pittsburgh, who's exactly tied with us. We lose 6-2-2, but then we bounce back with a 5-1 win over the Jets the next day. So definitely still a little bit of inconsistencies with like some of the goals against efforts and the offensive efforts. Like these 2 are completely reversed games, but I would still obviously say that our team has definitely figured some of its stuff out that was not doing good in the last episode. So let's go through Anaheim and Washington. And then we have a couple more games we'll go through as well before we get to the trade deadline itself, or the day before the deadline, I should say. We lose to Anaheim in overtime and lose 7-0 to Washington there. So that's a bit of a rough stretch for the team to end off February, but we're still in a pretty good spot that I shouldn't be complaining too much. We have fallen back to third place now in the Metro, as the Penguins are 3 more points up on us. They have the exact same amount of games played. We have played more games now than the Hurricanes and Caps. But we're in a pretty good spot right now that we don't need to worry too much, but we obviously still should be worrying about teams like New Jersey who are trying to get back into the playoff picture. So technically, yeah, if we were in the Atlantic, we'd still be first place. So I think it's just because it's our division that's really tough. That games against our divisional opponents end up being losses or games that we just barely win. So anyways, 2 more games, Dallas and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is obviously leading our division, so that's going to be a scary game. Dallas has been not that great so far this season, so we should be able to hopefully beat Dallas. Can we beat them? The answer to that is no, we can't. We lose 5-4, so we're on a little bit of a slide. We have now fallen into a wild card spot, and we're only 8 points up now technically on the Devils. So I am a little bit scared with this recent trend, but if we could beat Philadelphia here, we definitely could still have a good stretch in March. Obviously, there's still a lot of season left to go to see if we actually make the playoffs or not. So I'm not too worried, but obviously if our team starts to lose like 6 games in a row, then we might want to get a little bit worried. But anyways, big game against a tough Philadelphia Flyers team. Can we find a way to beat them and maybe feel okay? Yes, we can. 5-3 victory against the best team in our division. That's a nice victory. And we're only 6 points back of them, but we are in a wild card spot. So maybe the Flyers are on a little bit of a downwards trajectory, but that's a pretty solid episode for Simi. 36, 22, and 4. And let's take a look at our updated goals for and all that stuff. See if there's anything that's improved from our team. So we are now 16th in goals for. So I think our offense used to be 20 something. So that's improved a bit. Goals against, I think we fell off a little bit, but we're still top 10 in terms of goals against. We're 19th on the power play. So the power play I think improved maybe a little bit too. And then penalty kill is 10th. So still a solid defensive team, average offensively, but I feel like we've had some good offensive games in this episode, and I'm hoping that our depth scoring is still good. So we'll definitely take a look into that as well while we're at it. But we're looking pretty good at this point. Let's take a look at some stats and see what's going good for us right now and who's actually playing good at the moment. I feel like we still have good depth scoring, which is also great to see. But right now, from 62 games in, you can see Makinen's got 50 points. He is -7, but he's still producing really good for his age, and obviously he's still on the decline. Ashton on 42 points has been solid still. Jocelyn on 37. Jensen on 15 in his rookie season. Not bad whatsoever. Left wing side of things, Crane's on 52 points, despite being 38 years old. Pretty good. Ragnarsson's on 51 points. Kazanov's on 46. Trotter's on 35, not bad. 15 goals for him. We have Girard on 16, and Markstrom's only played the 2 games. From a right-wing perspective, Dempsey's on 35 points. He definitely stepped up a bit in this episode. 30 points for Harris, 19 for Schmalz, and then Howe's had 1 assist in 6 games. Not bad. So this is why I say our team is not that bad offensively. I know our offense needs maybe some work, right? But you look at our depth scoring here in terms of goals alone. Almost every single forward on our team has 10 or more goals. There's obviously Jensen, who's a rookie, not getting a lot of ice time. He doesn't have much goals. Girard almost has 10 goals. Schmaltz actually almost has 10 goals. And then there's all these guys that are 10 and above. So we don't really have a stud player that's scoring 30 goals, but we already have 3 20-goal scorers, almost a fourth. And we have a couple other guys that are getting close to 20-goal seasons as well. So I think our depth scoring is good. It's just obviously we're not having that superstar like some teams do that's leading the league. From a defensive standpoint, Holmstrom has missed an absolutely shit ton of games this year because we've played 62 games and he's only played in 37 of them. So we need him definitely to be a little bit more healthy going forward. Hopefully, I guess that means he's missed almost 30 games due to injury. I would guess that's probably 25 games due to injury. Yeah, 25 games I think he's lost due to injury if my math is correct, but he's been really good when he's played offensively, but obviously the team has been decent defensively when he's not been there too. Alcock's been a solid depth defenseman, 5 assists in 29 games, even 0, so he's been a solid defenseman for his team. And then from a goaltending perspective, both goalies so far have been pretty similar. Irwin's got a .918 save percentage, though, which is really good, and Bergenheim's got a .913. So goalies have been good. Offense, like I said, from a depth scoring standpoint, has been good. I don't really know if there's anything we need to fully address this trade deadline, even though it is the last trade deadline. If there is a big good goal scorer out there, maybe we find somebody like that. If there's not, we could honestly just maybe maintain it for this last season. But it is a lower scoring season, I think, than years past, because Crane with 52 points right now, I guess technically he wouldn't be really one of the best goal scorers in the league, but you could definitely see there's not as much offense, because 76 points in 62 games is good, but it's not like the same stretch as we've seen before where there was like guys with like, I think like already like 90 points, maybe 100 points at this point. So, yeah, I don't think there's been much offensive problems. Now, what's kind of crazy, though, is I just realized Guerin's actually injured at the moment for the Rangers. So that's probably why the Rangers aren't in a playoff spot right now, which is kind of crazy. Like, him and Wallace have been really good together again this year, but they're not in a playoff spot. Looks like some people are still scoring a lot of goals. Like, Guerin has an 11-point lead, or 11-goal lead despite his injury. There's some 30 goal scorers, but you don't really have a lot of 30 goal scorers. Like, the fact that we have a lot of already 20 goal scorers is not really that bad. So I think obviously we could use maybe an offensive weapon, but it might not be mandatory. And then from a defensive standpoint, like every defenseman's under point per game in the league right now, which is interesting, with Punov's leading with 55. And then goaltending, so far, is there really good goalie numbers? House has a 923 in San Jose. I guess there's some solid goaltending numbers. Irwin's actually up there in save percentage, which is impressive, so that's good to see. And then in goals against right now, Vico for Pittsburgh is up there, okay. Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit maybe of a lower scoring season, not by much, but a little bit. No goalie goals so far for fun. Chimera in assists. Alakis leading in rookies for Washington. All right. Yeah, I don't really know if there's an adjustment we need to make. Like, we should probably look into it just in case, because obviously this is the final season. So with that said, let's take a look at the trading block just to see if there's any options out there. And that'll probably be it for this episode after that point, just because we should be a playoff team regardless. I know we're in a wildcard spot right now. We should easily find ourselves in the playoffs, I think. But obviously, from a goal scoring standpoint, we could maybe use a guy that could score more consistently. Because if our depth scoring doesn't work out well in the playoffs, then we're going to be an easy exit, and we don't really want that. So, Anaheim has a goalie on the block, and Frolov. We don't need goaltending, though. Goaltending's been a strength this year. Yeah, we don't need Erskine. This guy's a 79. He's not going to help us much offensively. Looking for like a superstar kind of goal scorer if there's any out there, like a 30 kind of goal guy. Safronov, how is he in terms of scoring? 13 goals. He's not a bad player, but he's not really offensive. Calgary, not really seeing anything that would help us out offensively. Nothing there. Leahy, who used to play with us, could help us out offensively. He does have 19 goals this season, which would be one of the most on the team. But, wow, 55 points in minus 27. So Chicago's been bad, but he's been good. It would be nice to have Leahy back, but at the same time, I don't really know if there's a spot for him with all the centers we have at the moment. So I don't think that's something we need to look into fully. Triff has 14 goals as a sniper, is not really that much because we have some playmakers with more goals. Picard has 17 goals. That's not bad. Alexander Picard, not one of the ones that played in the NHL before. $12 million bucks though. That's a high-ass salary. Yeah, damn. This Schaefer guy is more of a playmaker, and then there's Blanchard, who's a grinder on 13 goals. I'm surprised Chicago's bad, but they have a lot of good players on the block. Colorado has Eberle on the block, 14 goals. Isn't bad from a guy that's like an exact bottom 6 at 31, but I don't think he would really help us that crazily in terms of goal scoring. He's pretty similar to a lot of players we already have right now, too. Columbus, not really anything. Dallas, nothing really either. Just trying to find somebody that could actually score goals, or else maybe we won't need to make any trades next episode, which would be kind of weird for the last season, considering we want to win the Stanley Cup potentially, but I'm not too sure if there's anything really out there in this league that's worth pursuing. Nashville, nothing there either. New Jersey has a goalie on the block. A lot of goaltenders on the block, speaking of which. Our former defenseman, Craig Cassivi's on the block. 27 points for him this season. Damn, he's actually been pretty good since he's left us. Some 40-point seasons and all that. Kind of wish we would have given him a bigger chance way back in the day. But yeah, he's been solid. Never won a Stanley Cup, but he's good. There is some decent players out there. Kagorodov's one of them on the Rangers, but he's got a high-ass cap hit. We don't really need to care too much about future cap hits, I guess, considering that there's no more years left after this, but just to play it safe. Pittsburgh, there is Tikkanen on the block. I'm surprised they're actually trying to move this guy, but he's in the AHL right now. Oh, he's one of their better prospects, an 80 at 20. Huh, how good is his shooting category? Is 3.5 stars. Oh, he was a 6th overall pick too, damn. And he's already on the block. Yeah, he wouldn't be somebody I would be able to fit onto this team anyways right now. He would be nice if we were going through a rebuild or something like that. Seattle's got nothing. St. Louis has a defenseman in Dodge who's an OFD. 27 points isn't bad for an 80 overall, but I don't think he's going to do much for us offensively. Mercier was getting overpaid. Yeah, this guy's really dropped off a lot. Like, he had 70 points a few years ago. Now he's only on 21. Damn, he's getting paid a lot of money. This Jääskeläinen guy in St. Louis who used to play for Minnesota, former 1st overall pick, has dropped off a lot, but he's on 21 goals right now, which would be one of our better goal scorers at the moment. Played most of his career in Minnesota before just joining the Blues recently. I don't know if he's ever won a Stanley Cup. I don't think so right now. And he's only got 1 year left. He is a center/right winger. He would maybe be one of those type of options to bring in. Now, he's only an 81 overall, so it's not like he's a high overall, but he is a goal scorer. And he's got really good shooting categories. His offensive awareness has dropped off a bit, but maybe he's somebody we could look into bringing in to help us with scoring. I just don't know where he would slot in on his team. That's the only thing. Like, we'd have to maybe move out Dempsey to get him in, and that way Dempsey could maybe score some goals on a different team. Dempsey's been good, but I don't know if he would be really upgrading into Jääskeläinen. It would be probably more of a downgrade than anything. So I don't really know about Jääskeläinen, but I think he could be decent. That might be one of the only options out there. We should actually take a look at our former enforcer in Abney, who is in St. Louis now as well. Looks like he's still picking up a lot of penalty minutes. 310 career penalty minutes in 194 games. 12 penalty minutes in the playoffs. Shout out to Abney. Aside from that, Tampa Bay has another goalie on the block. Yeah, there's a lot of good high-end goaltenders out there, but our goaltending is good enough already. Lockhart's still on the block if we want to bring back our former player again. He is on 23 goals, so he's actually scoring more than he did last year. So he is good, but do we want to bring him back again? He does fit our line still with the current coach too, so he might not be a bad option, but he might cost a lot. So I don't really know if I'd bring him in. Depends on what we'd have to give up and who we'd move out. There's also Naslund as well. Only on 12 goals though as a sniper, not as crazy. I feel like Lockhart would be better. Utah has nothing really other than a left-wing playmaker who is actually still in the AHL. Damn. This guy's got medium elite potential at 23, but he's in the minors. Played a little bit in the NHL last year, but now he got sent back down to Tucson. So, in terms of Vancouver, Vancouver's got some defensemen on the block, which we don't really need defensive help, I don't think. Vegas has some prospects, which obviously we don't really need at this point either. Washington has that OFD in Jeffrey, who is still not really picking up a ton of offense. He's definitely dropped off a bit since his 50-point days, so I don't really think he's somebody I would want on this team. And he's also got a really high up cap hit too. And then the Jets have Wong, who's more of a career depth defenseman. But he is on 11 goals this season, which is pretty good for a blue liner. So, yeah, this guy's not bad at scoring goals, but I don't really need some defenders. I just need a forward. So if we were going to bring in any forward, I'd lean towards bringing back Lockhart for this final season. Or I would bring in, who was that other option I mentioned? What team was it? Oh, it was Jääskeläinen, yeah. Jääskeläinen in St. Louis. It's got to be either one of the two. Lockhart would obviously be our best left winger overall-wise if we brought him in. Because this is our lineup right now. He would basically probably demote Crane to the third line. Trotter might have to move to the right wing, or he would get dealt. Yeah, we'd basically have to be one of these wingers that would have to get dealt in order to get him in. If we brought not Dempsey, if we brought Jaskalainen in, Dempsey would probably get to Dempsey would probably stay in this spot. Harris would probably be a fourth liner, and then Schmaltz would have to get moved out. Which Schmaltz hasn't been terrible defensively. Obviously, he's not doing as good as he was last year when he was scoring goals, but I think he's still not a bad option to have in case. But he could be maybe a potential trade bait if we really want to. So, but since he's a two-way forward, he kind of fits that defensive role anyways in that fourth line. So, tough to say if we need to make any trades, but I don't really think we need to necessarily. We could look into those two options like Lockhart and all that, but we'd have to move out roster players. And right now we're doing good enough that I don't think there's much of a chance that we're going to miss the playoffs unless we go on a big losing streak and make it drastic like last year. If we go like the Eastern Conference in general, we're currently fourth best team in the Eastern Conference, but it's mainly our division that's really strong. We're fourth place in our division, fourth place in the East. Like I said, technically, if we were in the Atlantic Division, we'd be probably number one at the moment still. Yeah, we'd be number one. Everybody that's in the Metro that's in a playoff spot would be number one, which is insane. Like, the Rangers are now back in the playoff mix as well, so there is some teams competing with us, but I think as long as we don't fall off too hard, we should be fine. But once again, if our depth scoring is not doing good in the playoffs, we need somebody that's consistently score for us. So maybe making a trade makes some sense, but it's tough to say if we should do it or not. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of New York Islanders Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we will have the final trade deadline and simulate the rest of the final regular season. Hopefully this team clinches a playoff spot. I think we should be able to easily at this rate just because we're better than a lot of Atlantic Division teams. But obviously I'm hoping that this team could have a good run in the playoffs in this final season if we do get there, in fact. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.